was not supposed to be here. Uh, Actually, I was, we organized a similar conference yesterday at the ADB. And when I received the flyer from Richard by email, I saw a list of the participants here. And I asked Harvey, contact Richard and see if we can invite those, especially the FinTech players, to the conference yesterday. And he said, of course, but you have to speak in our forum, and that's why I'm here. In our own forum yesterday, I did not even speak because I really, this is an area where so much is going on, and my thinking is it's better to listen than to speak or pretend to know. So this morning I will be listening more than talking, but I'm really pleased that this is a topic that is attracting a lot of attention. And when I look at the audience, we have some of the biggest names pushing FinTech in the country, namely Tito Ortiz. Tito was like lonely boys for the longest time in the banking sector, pushing for digitalization. But, with his energy and enthusiasm, he's brought not just his bank, but the whole industry to focus on this very important topic. When I was in government, we realized that access to finance was crucial in making a difference in people's lives, especially in the effort to alleviate poverty. But the challenge was how, no? And as we are starting to see, FinTech can actually play a very important role. No? The theme of the conference today, money is the root of all good. No? That's not what we normally used to hear. Before, it was a common saying that it was the root of all evil. No? But if money is given, or if the people who need is given access to finance, access to credit, you will be amazed at the amount of good that it will do, especially in uplifting the lives of over 90% of our fellow Filipinos. During the global financial crisis, over $12 trillion was released by the central banks of the world to the global economy. But unfortunately, very little of this actually went to the poor. It ended up with big companies, large countries, the rich. No, in fact, the rich even got richer. No, because the poor, even though you're throwing money already to the system, they don't have access. They're not connected to the system. In the conference yesterday, there was someone who said, a lot of the transactions, most of the transactions of the poor is in cash. No? And therefore, since it's in cash, there is no data trail. And if there's no data trail, there is no credit history. And if there is no credit history, then their access to credit would be very minimal. No? And therefore, alternative means of providing credit, no? Like creating algorithms so that you have a better picture of the lives of people who are outside this access, no? That can then give them access to finance that can change their lives. So the impact of FinTech is not just in the household level, it is also at the firm level. We all know that the bulk of entities in the country are MSMEs, the micro, small, medium-sized enterprises, over 99%. No? But to give them credit, and we have bankers here in the room, in a lot of cases it is not practical or economical because the cost to reach out to them using traditional means is quite high. And that is why a lot of them stay MSMEs, no? Even though there really is an opportunity to bring them to the next stage. No? And that is why, since leaving the government, I've spent a lot of my time trying to meet as many MSMEs. No? One organization that I'm part of, Endeavor, no? which mentors startups, no? is an organization that has allowed me to meet several of you here, several FinTech startups. No? Actually, they're supposed to be mentored by us, but in my experience, I actually learn from them. That's why I enjoy the process. I think the Philippines is at an inflection point in terms of FinTech. No? The penetration of telco, the penetration of internet, the average disposable income, the focus of government to invest more or build in infrastructure, no? I think will allow an acceleration of the implementation of FinTech. And we've also been blessed with regulators, including the late BSP Governor Nestor Espinilla, who are proactive in terms of adopting technology, in terms of making sure that regulations are adjusted to make it easier for fintechs to take roots in the country. Yesterday, we got not just the startups, the academics, the bankers, but also the regulators in the same room under Chatham House rules to really discuss what are the challenges. And true enough, and we will come up with a report in a few weeks, there are still major challenges that need to be addressed. And I think as we continue to speak out about the need to make it easier to do business in the fintech space, then hopefully those challenges will be addressed. No? We keep talking about financial inclusion. No? In fact, the past 10 years, the government has thrown, I don't know, close to $1 trillion, maybe 700 billion pesos, not thrown, but invested 700 billion pesos in the conditional cash transfer program, really to reach out to the bottom 60-70% of our fellow Filipinos so that they can invest in themselves, they can invest in their children. But that, I think, is still being done the traditional way. Yesterday, there was someone who said that, what if you distribute that using FinTech? No? Then you have better assurance that it actually gets to the user. Secondly, you gather more data about those recipients and how they spend their, those money. And I think a lot of insights were shared yesterday. Among the speakers today were speakers yesterday that really impressed me, not just with their stature and their influence in this space, but with the insights that they shared with us. And I hope that today we will have the same experience. Among them, Tito Ortiz, who was advocating for what he referred to as symbiotic convergence. No? So I had to look at the dictionary and try to figure out what it meant. But he did a good job of explaining what symbiotic convergence is, and I'm sure he will be talking about that yesterday. It's important that we keep the FinTech conversation going, no? Because it is only through engagement, not just amongst the startup, not just amongst the banks and the startups. And one of the things I learned yesterday is that there is now collaboration between startups and banks, which is good. No? Rather than looking at them as a threat, they are looking at them as a way to actually move to the next stage, so that as they disrupt the way it's done, they actually prosper together. But that conversation should also be brought with the regulators, and because ultimately they set the rules of how things are done in this country. And yesterday, I think, was a good start. Today, we'll bring the discussion to the next stage, and I hope this is not the last, because there are still a lot of work to make sure that we get to the level where China is. No? You go to China now, you go to Shanghai, Shenzhen, you try to pay in cash, and they will give you a certain look, you know, and a look that says, where have you been? You know, why are you paying cash? because their payments there are over 90% digital already. With digitalization, you not just increase the velocity of transaction, velocity of payments, velocity of use, generally the velocity of the economy, but more than that, there is an automatic way to capture data. And with an increasing number of data scientists, you get a better picture of where the opportunities are, where the needs are, and where intervention is needed. So FinTech is not just about money, it is also as much about data. It is not just about payments, it's about credit, it's about ease of use, it's about making it easier for everyone to transact with each other. Sometimes I wonder, for example, why our household help would go to Palawan. I don't know whether there's someone from Palawan pawn shop here in, near our house. No? And they pay about 6 to 8% of what they're remitting to the province. No? And yesterday I found the answer. Someone said, yeah, they pay 6 to 8% because that's cheaper than the 20% interest that they're paying to the people who lend them money on the ground at home. So just imagine if they don't have to pay that 6%. They just don't save the 14, but they practically save the hard-earned principal to actually benefit their family, not just for food, but for education. Again, Richard and Rebecca, thank you for putting this impressive group of people together on this very important journey that our country has to embark on, making sure that FinTech will become part of our lives sooner rather than later.
Lives.